Welcome to the Gaudium et Spes podcast, where every other week we bring you Catholic teachings and stories of faith from people throughout the Diocese of Pensacola-Tallahassee. Now, here are your hosts, Susanne McNinch and Chez Filippini.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Gaudium et Spes podcast. Chez and I are in the studio today, and we've got three incredible guests with us. This is our second part series on youth ministry. The last episode, we had Father Raymond and Katie Johnson on to talk about campus ministry life at the collegiate level. Now we're here today to talk about youth ministry at the high school level, and we have, like I said, three special guests. We've got Alex Molzer, who's here as the youth director from St. Rita Parish. We have Arnie Fonseca, who is here from Our Lady of Victory Parish. And we have Lisa Kurnik, who is the director of youth ministry for the diocese. So welcome.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Yeah, it's an honor to be here.
Great.
Good to see you guys. And if you've seen our podcast before or heard them, we start out with the first line from the document, which this podcast is named after, which goes, "The joys and the hopes, the griefs and anxieties of the men of this age, especially those who are poor or in any way afflicted. These are the joys and the hopes, the griefs and anxieties of the followers of Christ." So we've got three excellent followers of Christ. Lisa, we're going to start with you. Joys, hopes, my office buddy down the hall, griefs, anxieties, what's going on with you?
I would say the joy is in about 10 days, I will be on vacation again. Very excited. Anxiety, I would say my parents are aging and I don't live close enough to see them as often as I would like. But thanks to modern technology, I see them every night on my little Echo. So.
Thanks, Amazon.
I love it.
Arnie?
I think our joys, I speak for my wife and I, are granddaughters, and spending time with our family. I'm still, I work as a defense contractor, but I'm still working mostly from home. So I get to spend a lot of time with the family. That's certainly my joy, Grief would be mostly getting ready for next year, I guess, and trying to balance everything with family and making sure that we reach out to the teens and to the parents. And that probably leads to the anxiety. We have some new plans at Our Lady of Victory, how we're going to accomplish confirmation, and all of our sacramental preparation. So just a little bit of anxiety of making sure that everything, rolls properly.
Cool.
Yeah.
Thanks. Alex?
I'm closing on a property next week, which is very, full of divine providence. I'm just very excited. It's got some acreage, farmhouse. So I'm excited to kind of get into that homestead life and have some space to spread out and bring families in and teach them about stewardship. So yeah, it's exciting.
Your first home purchase.
First home purchase.
Dang,
adult
man.
things.
I know.
This is
young.
You're on
That's
track.
amazing.
Well done. Well
Thank
done.
you.
Congrats.
I would agree. Yeah.
Susanne, what's going on?
Coming off an incredible 4th of July weekend,
Hey-yo.
a little vacation, little family time, my husband's birthday. So just, I don't know, just joyous all around for just life and its many blessings. So how about you?
All right. Forgive me if this runs a little long. I had the craziest airport encounter I've ever had and will ever have in my life, I think. So I was in Houston last week for a conference, which would have been my joy if this hadn't happened. It was awesome. I'm in the Houston airport. You probably have heard flights have been crazy. So it's like my flight, I get there at 1, flight's at 8:30, and then it gets delayed, and it just keeps piling up. So the terminals and the actual gates just keep piling up with people. And around, I think, 6 o'clock, after wandering for a long time, I finally sat near the gate, and it's just a lot of people. Most people are on their phones or watching iMovie or something like that. My phone's kind of dying, so I'm kind of looking around. And then you got airport discussion guy next to me who just is starting to talk to himself and trying to strike up a conversation. Some people around me. So he's like, we're kind of engaging him in discussion. Eventually he's like, I'm from Maryland, but I'm originally from Philadelphia. I go, well, I'm from Reading, which is about 50 miles northwest. And another woman just across goes, I'm from Reading too. I was born at Reading Hospital. I was like, I was born at that hospital. Kind of look at each other. I was like, that's cool. Like 5 seconds go by, and I was like, well, I'm really from Exeter, which is a suburb of Reading. If you know Reading, it's kind of like, saying like, I'm actually from Cantonment, not Pensacola or something. She goes, I used to sell real estate at Century 21 in Exeter. And we looked at each other and we're like, I was like, okay. And then a couple seconds go by, I was like, by any chance, did you ever sell or deal with property at Exeter Public Golf Course and Estates, which was the golf course I lived at and my parents owned? And she goes, that's Enrico and Linda Filippini's property. And I was like, that's my mom and dad's name. And I looked at her and I was like, I'm their son. And she goes, your dad was the best man at my wedding 50 years ago. Oh. And I was like, what? So she goes, she comes, come sit down. She goes, we basically, my dad and her first wife, her first husband, were patrol car mates for the Muhlenberg Police Department. And my dad trained him. That's how we became friends. And they got introduced to me. She's like, I met your dad when he started dating your mom, and like 2 weeks before, and he was like, if I ever get married, somebody please shoot me. And then your mom shows up, and then we were like, what's going on here? So like my dad was the best man at their wedding. They came to my parents' wedding a few months later. They played like pinochle and cards and came over to each other's apartments. I'd never heard of this woman before. Her name's Tracy. Tracy, if you're listening, hello, good to see you again. But it kept building. But when she said your dad was the best man at my wedding, I was just like, I'm in the Houston airport with like 50,000 other people, and the chance of me sitting next to this person is just mind-numbing. So thank you, God. It was fun. It was beautiful. Like, she lives right over in Alabama. They're going to hang out. We're going to be so it's just amazing. So there's your story of the day.
Great.
Anyhow.
Well, good. Well, let's get to know our guest a little bit more, okay?
Let's do it. All right. Go for it.
So, Alex and Arnie, can you just tell us a little bit about yourself, where you grew up, and how you kind of got to the point you are right now in your life?
Yeah, absolutely. I grew up in a small suburb of Chicago and then moved to Florida my freshman year of high school, which was a big change going into high school. And then after graduation, I went to Ave Maria University, where I double majored in philosophy and environmental science. Okay. At Ave, I would say one of the biggest educational aspects wasn't necessarily the classes, which were amazing, but it was really being really heavily involved in campus ministry, as well as being a resident assistant for the university for 3 years. Okay. So it was there that I really learned and was taught by the Lord how to encounter people where they are. That brought me, to make a very long story short, to Santa Rosa Beach to be the youth minister at St. Rita's. Okay. So that's where I'm at now.
Wow. So now when you started college, was this sort of the job that you were looking forward to having one day, or what was
this was the job out of left field. So when at the tail end of high school and beginning of college, I was very seriously discerning the priesthood. Okay. So I was working with pastors, serving mass every day at Ave Maria, and just really pouring in to that discernment. And through discernment and prayer, I realized, okay, this is not where the Lord is calling me. Okay. But I still had that passion for the church and for ministry. But at the tail end of Ave, I was really looking to actually doing wildland firefighting with the state of Florida. So I had a really great internship with them through the environmental science program at the university. But nothing was falling into place with that. And in prayer, Holy Week, about a year and a half ago, I was just praying through everything, and this job kind of came to light. And doing something hard came to light, and being with the youth, it just all opened up. I didn't necessarily want to go back to the Diocese of St. Augustine, as awesome as it is. I wanted to kind of do something fresh, live an adventure, and that's how I came here. So, yeah.
Well, thank you for hearing the call.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
That. Yeah, great. How about you, Arnie? Tell us a little bit about yourself.
Well, I'm from Puerto Rico, so is my wife, and by God's providence, so are our children, even though I was in the military when they were born. So being over there in Puerto Rico, my parents put me in Catholic school, and that's where I met in kindergarten my wife of 35 years.
Oh.
Now, and we use that a lot to talk to the teens to realize, hey, God has a plan. You just have to listen to it. I also tell them, no, I was not her high school boyfriend. Far from it. I was actually her brother, the one that took them to places with her friends, make sure that they were safe. When we got in the bus, that all of them were, had a, gentleman there to make sure that nobody got too close, kind of thing, and make sure they were safe in their house. Also, I was getting into formation for confirmation. I had a close relationship with her parents. and I asked both her parents to be my confirmation godparents. We don't call them sponsors in Puerto Rico. It's a godparenting relationship. 10 years later, as we're in college, both of us in separate colleges, and I'm in ROTC preparation for the Air Force. We started formally dating, and 35 years later, here we are. We, as mentioned, we have 2 children, a daughter and a son. Our son is a young man who's going to turn 30 this year. Is a high-function autistic. Okay. When it was time for them to do their confirmation preparation, I'm always there with him, especially after I retired. Do a lot of things with him, so I was there. As I'm sitting, just kind of take all my diocesan preparation, safe environment, the whole 9 yards. Gentleman who I called my boss, at that time, Reggie, asked would I be interested in doing one of the lessons, and I jumped at it. Let's say it that way. And from there on, started our relationship that Lisa got to witness for many years, for a good 10 years, where it was Reggie and I. Reggie was the expert on administration, and I miss him. And I was the one figuring out the catechesis that we were going to do and supporting on all the other activities. Continued to do that for a long time, and there was a time where we had another youth minister come in, and I saw an opportunity to still help, but sort of like slow down a little bit, spend more time with family. And then the call came to pick up the job, and I've been doing high school youth ministry as a director since 2019. So throughout the whole time. And then I'm here.
Wow.
Cool. Thanks, Arnie.
Yes, thank you.
Oh, I guess I mentioned that my joys were my granddaughter. So our daughter obviously got married, and we have 2 granddaughters, a 5.5-year-old and a 1.5-year-old. Okay. I mentioned that because both of them, the oldest one has learned to serve in the church since she was like 2.5, with me holding her in the arms and sitting people at the hospitality to continue to work and serve and all that. And we're working on, minister number 2 on the 1.5 year.
Nice.
She's getting there.
Well, it sounds to me like you've had a lifetime servitude sort of attitude and a way about you, starting from, what you did for your wife in high school, continuing on through your service in the military, and then what you're doing today. So thank you for everything.
Thank you.
Yeah. Lisa, a little bit about yourself. I know you've got tons of experience.
The short version is I've been involved in youth ministry since high school. And I'm not going to tell you how many years ago that was, a long time ago. I always felt God calling me to ministry, but back then nobody got paid to do youth ministry. That was in the dinosaur days. And I started as a part-time youth minister, making $50 a week to do the high school youth group. And after 3 years, I was hired as full-time youth minister in Tampa and worked there for about 15 years. Doing high school, middle school, confirmation. And then God was calling me to something else, and everybody kept saying, don't you want to work for the diocese? Every time there was an opening, I'm like, no, I never want to work for a diocese. Don't ever say that, because God will laugh at you. So I started feeling this call and started interviewing and ended up coming here to the Diocese of Pensacola-Tallahassee in 2003. And I've been here 20 years this August. So.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
So, we wanted to have you guys on. We have this great range. Alex has been at this a whole year. And Arnie's been at this, even though you've only been the director since 2019, essentially about 18 years, right? Mm-hmm. And Lisa, you said 38 years, right? So the church has been doing youth ministry. We've been ministering to young people. That Jesus has been encountering young people since its inception. But youth ministry as a thing now it's its own thing, right? It's different than it has. So maybe, Alex, we can start with, when you think of the core aspects of youth ministry and programming, planning for youth ministry, what are some of the core tenets or ideas or strategies? What comes to mind as you think about that?
Yeah. This topic has actually been something that I've been thinking about quite a bit lately, going into next year, to just really take that step back to think like, okay, like what is our job really in ministry? Because I think sometimes as youth ministers, we can get bogged down with a lot of the administrative tasks, with the paperwork, with the stress, and we can focus on that and, focus on the negative. But really taking that step back and realizing, okay, why are we here? Why has the Lord called us here? So just seeing the opportunities for the teens to encounter Christ in the Eucharist, to build that community, and to just really build a foundation, truly build that foundation that they're going to need in college. I know you guys just had the campus ministry team from UWF here. And, it's interesting for me watching that episode thinking, my history in campus ministry at a college level, and then as a resident assistant, I always look through youth ministry through that lens of, okay, I've seen the tail end of this story. I've seen what happens to teens that don't have a foundation in their relationship with Christ and their faith in high school. If they don't have that, what happens in college, when things get messy and hard, which is inevitable. So that's really kind of my focus, and what I think about is, what is the reality that these teens are going to face, and how can we give them the capital T truth to apply to what they encounter in the world.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
Write it down.
I know.
So it's three, build that encounter with Christ in the Eucharist specifically.
Absolutely.
Building community, that foundation. Arnie, I'm assuming the plan isn't too much different or anything, but some of the things that came to mind as far as core aspects.
When the question came about, remember I mentioned being a matter-of-fact kind of person when I answer sometimes, but I'll go through it. I have some few notes straight from the Bishop Conference.
Okay.
What is it that we're expecting based on the Living the Faith program? I always tell the teens that I want them to be the ministry. I'm here to caretake of the ministry, but the ministry is yours. So, the church says they need to have advocacy, they need to be able to have a voice. And I try to encourage them to have a voice. I am so blessed and grateful that we had 2 of our teens attending Christian Leadership Institute so that they can be a voice. And they're always, we encourage them to have action and activity to be seen by others. So we're trying to make that goal as best as possible. The next thing that we do is obviously we teach. We teach them about the faith, and we try to get the nuggets to what it needs to be for them so that they can start seeing some substance. I always tell them, I took this job, and I actually have a master's. I didn't mention I have a master's in theology from Franciscan University, but I didn't take that to talk. I did that so I can have the voice of the church and speak to you with reason and truth on this faith that you're supposed to believe. So that's one of the things that we do a lot. And then the next one is building a fellowship. Okay, so we do a lot of my wife leads, like I said, a monthly social night where we get them to interact with each other. We constantly looking for ways for them to interact and to make it like, okay, this is your church. You guys, getting together and then pointing towards Jesus Christ. So we built that so that they can then evangelize. And the way we work that is I try to find little things where they figure that they can see, like I was commenting to 2 of our girls who are always there. Since they started confirmation, they're always there at the door. Sometimes I'm getting there a little bit far behind late because I'm taking care of the granddaughters. I get there and they're standing there and their parents are inside. And I was like, you girls realize that your parents are always there because you guys, girls, want to be here. So you're evangelizing your parents by virtue of you wanting to be there to show up. And those same girls with other girls melded with my wife and several of the activities we were doing, and they call into their group one other girl that won't talk to anybody. That's when we tell them this is part of your evangelization at your level. Okay? So we do a lot of justice and service activities. So we support the Catholic outreach with the Boxes of Joy. We do on Christmas, to prepare for Christmas, we tell them, okay, go out there, talk to your uncles, talk to your godparents, talk to your friends, talk to whoever sees, they'll donate some money to buy stuff for, and we use a program called Food for the Poor, and we shop. They're like, okay, we made this much amount of money. I mean, you guys did. Okay, what do you want to buy? So we show them, hey, here, shop around. 20 chicks, a goat, something for this, No, that's what they kind of look at. We're actually buying a goat. So it's like something tangible that they can see themselves working. And we support the Walk of Life every year. It's one of those, like, my core things, like, you will be going to the Walk of Life. You're going to be, be exposed to this every time. Sorry, looking through the notes. Like I said, we're grateful that we have CLI back again and in full power, and that I had 2 teams that got to go. So we keep telling them, we want you guys. This is your ministry. You don't have to do the lesson if you don't feel comfortable talking to everybody in the lesson. Yeah. You can do the opening activity, the opening prayer. You can lead, and I do have many of them that I can trust to lead a small group. So when I don't have enough adults to go around, we just kind of roam around and let them do their small group with a 11th grader, 12th grader leading. Yeah. So we're building that leadership, and which leads to the most important thing, okay, which is sad to say it at the end, but it's the pastoral in terms of being there for the Eucharist, spending time in prayer, understanding all of the devotions that we have, and the importance of Jesus Christ's presence through all of us. So, which is our challenge for this year. We're, in line with the focus for our diocesan youth conferences. I'm focusing the whole year on the Eucharist and the different things we can learn from the Eucharist, and that's a whole year worth easy of knowledge to learn and to experience.
One of the things, if you get a comparison point, if you're thinking about ministering to First Communion preparation, you're not asking, we don't have DREs asking like little Timmy, who's 7 years old, like, can you give a witness talk? And it's like you just receive the teaching of the church. Youth ministry is that place where you're starting to first be like handed the keys, like you have ownership over the transmission of the faith too. So it's where you're going to witness to your peers, and you're going to give talks at retreats, and you're going to lead service projects. Like you have to start to, you're not a kid in the faith anymore. You're becoming an adult and stuff. So I love that both of you have highlighted that. Yeah,
definitely. So, Lisa, Arnie mentioned CLI, and I know you've been walking around the building here, so excited about that. Can you talk a little maybe about that, about the youth conference, and what that means to our diocese and the people within it?
So 2 weeks ago, we had Christian Leadership Institute, and we had about 20 kids, because we're just coming back from COVID, so we're starting to slowly grow. At Christian Leadership Institute, we give them skills to help them be leaders in their church, like communication skills and how to plan things. And during the week, they actually get to plan things and use those skills. But we also have added a component of evangelization and discipleship. So we talk to them and help them learn how to be disciples, how to evangelize, how to share their faith witness. Most of the kids say that's their favorite part, because they got to sit one-on-one with someone and tell their story. And they've never done that with anyone before. So we're growing in our understanding, because right now in the churches, there's more push for evangelization. So we're trying to help our young people learn how to do that.
Wonderful, wonderful. Alex, our youth today are, I shouldn't say unique, but, it's different for this generation as compared to maybe mine and whatnot with social media and, everything else that's present. So what are some of the things that you think about and that you have to deal with when you're ministering to the youth of today?
Actually what came to mind when Arnie was talking about those 2 girls with confirmation and their parents, what came to mind for me was how I think more and more youth ministry is becoming family ministry. Because with modernity, I think the chasm between children and their parents just continues to grow, because there is this level of false confidence, I think, that technology brings in parents thinking that they have knowledge and necessary control over their teen's life. So they think like, okay, like I'm communicating with my kid all the time. We're in the family group chat. We're all these things. Like I know what's going on in their life. but it's so easy for that false front to be present for teens. And I think kind of moving into that, that false front, that trust, that's what social media and technology and modernity brings to their lives. Santa Rosa Beach is a very affluent, very well-traveled area, and kids do not have what I had growing up, and I'm sure you guys did as well, which was a community of people from kindergarten all the way through. There were kids that moved away, but these kids constantly have classmates and friends that they just don't really hear from anymore because they've moved away, moved on, big military community. So it's really kind of pouring into that aspect of their lives of how can they build trust with their trusted peers, the people that are also seeking to grow in their relationship with Christ, and how can they grow in honesty and respect for their parents at the same time, and just continue that family conversation to just help everybody grow together in the domestic church.
Wow. Yeah, I love it.
I think all of us probably, I'm 36, and when I talk to high school students today, I'm just like, it's just not the same, as far as like that kind of, your sports teams, your classes, it just generated.
There's so much pressure.
Yeah.
And I see that with teens all the time is there's this intense pressure when it comes to their homework. These kids that are in 8th grade or 9th grade that, they know exactly what they want to do, or they're debating politics, or they're talking about information, and they have this knowledge without having the emotional maturity and how to package and handle and process it. And I think, the pandemic added to that, that level of they're taking in all this information constantly, but they don't have this reality and this maturity, this world experience to kind of process that information.
Arnie, as someone who's, again, 18 years, that's a broad kind of a sample size. You've seen this change. Is 2023 different from the mid-2000s as far as, not everything changes, obviously, but some imagine.
Like I said, my wife and I was having this conversation precisely getting ready for today, and actually, no.
Okay.
There is no change on how teens were when we were growing up 58 years ago. Well, teen will be 40-some years ago. To now, in the sense that it's extremely difficult to make the eternal present today and relevant today right now. That's the challenge.
Okay.
The difference is my wife and I said we agree this, is when I grew up and coming from Puerto Rico, being at that time probably 80 plus Catholic, to be in the church, and then growing up in Catholic school, to be in the church, well, that was what you did, my wife evangelized at the school where kids were going by making sure they go on Good Friday. They wouldn't have classes anymore because we grew up that Good Friday, nobody worked.
Right.
I mean, obviously, except for emergency services and the people working with the tourism, they don't have a choice. But you were either at home praying or getting ready to go pray to go at the church. So even now that wasn't a perfect situation, and it wasn't that it led to a constant conversion of people, which it did. But the fact is that the faith was something concrete and real for us. I tell the teens, you knew that you were a man when you were doing a Via Crucis, a Station of the Cross, through your neighborhood, not at the church, not at the area of the church. You went through the neighborhood with effigies, with statues, and the men were the one who carried them around. So if you made it to that level, you knew you have a little more than just hair and the mustache kind of thing. But it made it in something else. It made it concrete. It made it something real. Where now, as Alex mentioned, well, I got real right here in a few seconds. I don't have to worry about it. I have homework that I need to worry about. I have sports that I need to, and everything, all that is concrete and real for me. But how's your eternal life you talked about that is going to be like, for me, being a teen, just like it was when I was a teen, decades down the road, relevant to me right now. So when I started last year, I tried to explain to the parents as we were doing, your regular go to church, Father, can I speak a few minutes because we're going to start registration? Tell them that all of those are important things in the aspects of their life. Faith makes it better. The church says that faith illuminates reason. So I don't argue against the stuff that they have. I actually tell them, we can make this better if you come and, spend some time, in community, with friends you can count on, specifically with the best friend, which is Jesus Christ, present in the Eucharist. Do that. It will make everything else you do so much better. So that's, for me, the difference of 2023 is that we're fighting against something that gives them instant gratification versus something that it takes time to build.
Right.
You cannot explain
That's right.
the matters of faith in a quick minute bite. You can just here's to get your interest wet. Are you ready for the rest? Are you willing to learn the rest? Which leads to the other challenge is that they want that quick answer.
Yeah.
And they're willing to take any quick answer without really discerning, is this the right answer for what I say? Does this even make sense? So we're constantly having that challenge, for, the current, so getting them to understand the eternal has always been there. It's even for us, okay? Trying to get them to go a little deeper. That's the difference in 2023.
Yeah.
But I think they want to go deeper.
Oh, absolutely. They're hungry
Because
for it.
the evaluations I get over and over again for CLI and other things that we do, they always say, we want to learn more about our faith. We want to learn more about our faith. We want to learn more about how to pray. And that's what I got this year on CLI evaluations. Again, we do those things, but we can't do it all in one condensed 4-day period. We have to get people to understand it's a lifetime. It's a lifetime. But we're so used to the sprint instead of the marathon that people want it now. So.
Yeah. This all brings, one of the questions I want to ask you guys that builds off of this is high school is such a time of dramatic change. Like from the time you pop into that, in August and freshman year to the time you leave, like you're physically different, you're mentally different, you're socially different, you're academically. It's like my life it changes the externals, but I feel like I'm the same person I was for the most part 10 years ago, not as a high school student. So, Christianity is often about encountering change, encountering life moments, and youth ministry is like an accelerated form of that. So what does conversion look like for your high schoolers? How do they, whether it's these momentary things or these you see these processes growing from year to year, what does conversion look like in some of the students, young people, high schoolers you work with? Alex, go for it.
I'll go for it. I think conversion comes about with the active choice to show up. I think time and time again I see these teens that, as Lisa mentioned, are very hungry for the truth to grow in their faith. But I have a couple of high schoolers that will make sure that their friends show up. Will make sure to pick up their friends and bring them to these different events. This past Wednesday, we do high school hangout during the summer before our evening mass on Wednesdays. And we've had about four Protestant brothers coming and showing up with their high school friends. So it's cool to see them, sitting in the pew, attending daily mass and being able to witness that and what the beauty and richness of our Catholic faith. And so I think, for my high schoolers especially, they're such good kids, and seeing them bring others in and to evangelize, I think is a big indicator of their conversion, of putting boots on the ground and really just wanting their friends to encounter Christ and encounter the great community that we have.
Wow.
All
I same echo, at the, as I mentioned before, the two girls, and not just two, as there's times that I have more teens willing to serve after we finish confirmation and all the service hours and everything. This is after you're done. You don't have to, before that we have that, it's not really a requirement, but we made a requirement for them to serve just so they experience. But for them to be afterwards trying to serve during the liturgy, to have one of my 11th graders, be, having a job of training those who are going to walk forward with the offertory, with the wine and the bread, forth. And I trust, I can just like take care of it. And she comes in, it's like, do you need any help? The conversion comes when they find themselves, like Alex mentioned, in a place where they can invite their friends who may not be Catholics, or they be Catholics and they haven't been coming for a while. We had one girl join us into confirmation that was friends with some of the other girls, and that's one of the reasons why she came in. There's other reasons, but that's one of the things that make her feel comfortable, because she was in a place where she knew people and felt accepted. So for me, conversion for them is finding a place where they can be, as a person, and then proceed, hopefully, to grow as a fully realized person, which is the hope and joy of the church and God is for you to be fully realized.
Yeah. And one part of that, I think sometimes is I always joke with them. I'm like, guys, like your relationship with the Lord, your prayer life doesn't necessarily have to just be a permission slip. It doesn't have to be you listing out all these things that you need, that you're stressed about, that you're worried about, that you want, and say, hey, God, just sign the bottom of this permission slip, give it back, and then I'll do my thing, you'll do your thing, and we're good to go. But, that moment of conversion in teens, I think, comes when they realize, the Lord is present and wills my good in daily life. And growing in that personal relationship I've got 7 teens that are in this peer ministry group that we meet, and hearing them give their witness and testimony to their friends and on youth nights, to just really tell the people around them, like, hey, life is really hard. And if you're part of a big family, or, you're in sports, there's moments when, you can just encounter Christ in the everyday. And I think for the other teens, hearing someone that's on their level say, hey, I understand that this is really hard. I understand that life is stressful. I understand that you don't want to deal with your parents. You don't want to change your little brother's diaper. You don't want to babysit. You don't want to go to work. But in those moments, you're not just encountering that person, you are encountering the person of Christ. So it just opens their eyes to someone that's in the fight with them and, wants to support them.
Good. As I go to Mass, and I've been to several parishes here within the diocese, I take a look around the congregation, and it seems like it's a fairly older crowd that's there. You don't see a lot of youth. You may see young children that are there with their parents, but the teenagers are hit and miss at the different places you go. What advice would you give to parents and grandparents of teenagers to encourage them to participate, to learn more about their faith and to be involved in a youth ministry program?
I think it doesn't have to be perfect. I had a meeting this past Sunday. I'm also in charge of confirmation, so I had a meeting with the confirmandi and their parents. And we, at the end of the meeting, we prayed the rosary together, and of course there were moments of stumbling through some things with people. That's kind of how I ended. I said, guys, the Blessed Mother doesn't expect us to be perfect when we hold her hand and pray the rosary. And I think that concept can also be applied to the faith and to applying, yourself to youth ministry and volunteering. It doesn't need to be perfect. You don't have to have it all together, because the Lord knows that I don't have it all together, and I didn't know what I was doing and still don't, in this position. So it's kind of telling them, like, hey guys, these teens every day, no matter who you are, they're going to call you on the carpet. As a parent, your teen is going to do things that you don't understand, even though you were in their shoes before. Right. It doesn't need to be perfect, but it does need to be trusting in the Lord will use you as an instrument, and just to dive in and say, Lord, I trust you, I need you in this, but you've got the wheel, so just use me as you see fit. I think parents really have that desire, but sometimes they feel ill-equipped to serve their teens or other teens.
Real quick, Alex, do you rely on parents to physically, obviously not all my driver's license, stuff like that, but there's a sense in which once my driver's license got in my hands, I'm going to do what I want to do, and mommy and daddy don't have to drive me to the church for catechism class or something like that. Is that kind of like,
I'd say there's a mix. I have a great group of parents who really do show up with their kids and make sure they get to different things and, communicate with me. But I also have a good mix of kids that drive themselves as well. And, it is beautiful to see these parents that really do want to be involved. And it's just, again, equipping them that, hey, you're totally capable of this and of helping your child grow.
Arnie, thoughts?
So the best advice that I always give, and sometimes it's like a scolding, so I apologize for it sounds like a scolding, like wife, I always speak matter of fact and with that authoritative military voice is, you have to witness the faith to your teens. If you said that faith is important, that eternal life is important to me, then it needs to be seen in you. Whether you get to go to Catholic church or not, it's irrelevant. My parents still, have friends who were in public school, but my parents always took me to church. We always went to Mass and participated in things in Mass. They didn't participate to the level that I participate right now, but I wouldn't be participating, my wife wouldn't be participating if it wasn't that we had an encouragement to do those things. We got it through our Catholic school. So we will do plays, we will do rosaries, we have daily Mass, we will do these things because they made it available to us by their sacrifice. So you have to be willing to do some level of sacrifice. We all have bad weeks, we all have bad days. We're very blessed in Our Lady of Victory that Father Roy is so available to us because we get reconciliation twice a week, and during the week, Mondays and Wednesdays. So he's very available for us to witness to our teens, to our kids. Hey, I need to go talk to the Lord. I need to spend some time. I need to some quiet time and do that. And if you witness that, then they will call it. I was not able to find the research, but something that I have heard a lot for the last 5-6 years is kids and teenage kids will do whatever mom says till they're 18. Once they're adults, by the letter of the law, let's just leave it at that. They're gonna do. Hey, I already put my bid for Queen and Country. I follow through. But if dad is present, instead of say doing something else, whatever that is, the question always raises, why is that? I can understand mom. Mom's the spiritual one. Why is dad here? So I always encourage my dads. It's like, listen, they need to. They know when you're having a bad time. Then you don't have to do anything else. You need to just witness by professing what you say that we're supposed to believe. If you do so more, even better. And we do provide them a lot of resources to the 21st century of how to grow in their faith, and have a conversation with their teens. Even through the confirmation program, we give them resources for them to have a conversation. But we as parents have to be willing to witness our faith. And then they will follow on what we do more than what we say.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Ernie, were you referencing the study? I can't remember the exact statistics, but it's pretty shocking, like the disparity between I went to Mass every Sunday and only my mom took us to both parents took us, and my dad was just as prevalent figure. The disparity between lifelong Mass church involvement versus one or the other, I think it's like a 40% gap or something like that. So there is this kind of interesting witness that a father has, and both parents are essential in this, but it's an interesting statistical reality that I think you highlight well there.
Yeah, absolutely. I know I wouldn't be where I'm at all if it weren't for my parents that sacrificed everything for me to homeschool me and make sure I was catechized well and just teach me everything that I know. And it's just, these kids have been dealt some hard cards sometimes, and it's not their fault with what they do with them sometimes.
At least I want to hear from, again, parish and diocesan experiences, the role of parents and what you've seen and what the importance is there and everything.
I don't think I can say any more than these two have said. I think the role of the parents is the most important role in their lives at that point. Okay. Even though the kids say it isn't, it is. Parents are the most influential, and I think, as Arnie pointed out, they're watching what we're doing. And so if dad's not going to church, that's the first thing. Well, why do I have to go? Dad's not going. So we have to model for them what we want for them. And parents nowadays feel like they are not important and they check out. They check out because the kids push. Well, that's normal. That's normal behavior. All kids push their parents away. But you have to push back, and you have to keep loving them and hugging them. And one of the things Bishop Walk 2 years ago at youth conference, he said, what do you need me to say? Because he was our keynote speaker. I said, our youth council said the most important message for them is they need to be told that they are loved by God, that they are seen, that they are heard. Our young people need to know that, even from their parents. So our young people today are facing a crisis because they don't feel that love. They don't feel like they're seen. They feel like they're invisible. So we need to help them understand that in God's eyes, they are so precious. They are so precious because there's a lot of things going on right now with them, not just drugs and alcohol, which have been around forever, but bad things. So we have to constantly remind them they are the creation of our loving Father and that they are seen, they are heard, they are loved. And Bishop did an amazing job. Arnie was there. He did an amazing job with that message. So.
Absolutely. Wow. I mean, I don't know about you, Chez, but this has been one of my favorite episodes that we've done. I mean, having the three of you here today, Alex, Arnie, Lisa, thank you so much. You guys are incredible leaders. You're exemplary. Oh, now I'm going to get emotional. I can't do this. I'm just like, I'm filled with just wonderful spirit right now. Yeah. So I'll let you conclude, Chez.
Well, guys, like I said, awesome. For all you have listened, if you didn't catch part one, definitely our conversation as far as the young adult college ministry level is very interesting. But this kind of paints a full picture of, man, every aspect of the church's ministry is really important. This is definitely one of that age of 13, 14 to 25 or so, whatever you want to put. It's all important, but man, you can make huge eternal impacts at this time. So if you have talents and time and treasure, please seek out your local parish and ask how you can help and contribute. We're going to get off the youth ministry train, though, for the next episode, guys. So in 2 weeks' time, Bishop will be back to talk about the diaconate, an amazing role in our church, a part of holy orders that kind of crosses spheres between marriage and official ecclesial ministry. So we're very excited to display that, and we hope to see you there.
Thank you for tuning in today to the Gaudium et Spes podcast. If you would like to know more about our podcast, please visit gaudiumetspes.net or go to ptdiocese.org and click the button that says podcast. If you listen to the audio version from an app such as iTunes, Stitcher, or Spotify, be sure and rate, review, and comment. If you watched us on YouTube, make sure you like and subscribe or leave us a comment there as well. Thank you for joining us.